All right, hello wine drinking people. This month went from Chile and Argentina month to Syrah month really quick with our vintage Syrah tasting. And, you know, Syrah, one of the greatest red grape varietals on the planet, one of the few that you can make a single varietal wine out of and make a very high quality wine, one that you can keep for 10, 15, 20 years or longer in your cellar, and the wine will continue to develop. Well, this tasting was all about Syrah, and Syrah 10 years or older. So for me, 10 to 15 years is right about when you want to drink your Syrahs, and you know, some of the better ones will last longer than that. But to me, Syrah is all about this lush, plump, cherry, plum fruit. And that's one of the things that you kind of fades over time. So if you want to catch Syrah at its peak, try them 10 to 15 years. And hey, I always say, if you open up the bottle and you like it, you might as well drink. I mean, most of your case, if you have a case, because who knows, you keep it for 5 years, you open it up and you go, man, it was better 5 years ago. So my rule of thumb is if you like the wine, if it tastes really good to you, drink it. And, well, that's why we do all these experiments here with the older vintage wines. Like the 1996 Chapoutier Hermitage Le Suzerain, which we started with. Not a crowd favorite, but this wine's still hanging in there. Drinking very good on the second day. A really complex bouquet of dark spice, black earth, kind of dried meats, smoke, a little black tar. Some caramel notes starting to come out in this wine as the wine opened also. Really sweetened up. And like I said, really opened up nicely on the second day. Really smooth and silky texture on the tongue, showing a bit of that floral and dried meat kind of notes on the finish. And that dark spices, truffles, toffee, herbs. Nice complexity here. Excellent juice. Got it just a shade up in the rating because it was so good on the second day. Then the 1998 Tenuto Bosco Syrah from Tuscany. And this is one of the top Syrahs made in Tuscany. Syrahs in Tuscany still have that Tuscan kind of underbrush, sage, herbal kind of quality that the other wines have, Sangioveses and Cabernets and things. And this wine had a really savory bouquet to it, kind of dried herbs, that underbrush, the dark cherry and plum fruit. Somewhat dried out, not a lot of fruit left in this wine, but still very fresh. It had a nice amount of acidity and really savory style of Syrah, those herbs and typical Tuscan countryside underbrush coming through on the finish, along with some dried tobacco spice. This wine went really nicely with Tony's lasagna. Probably the best food and wine pairing with that lasagna was the Italian wine. Go figure, with lasagna. Anyways, the K Brothers was up next, the Block 6 from McLaren Vale, and the Aussies really strutted their stuff at this tasting. I have to say, they bested the other Shiraz, and this vineyard was planted in 1892. Wow, one of the ironic things about McLaren Vale, still has a good amount of black cherry and blackberry fruit here, licorice spice, violet notes, sweet tobacco spice. Wow, really big and chewy on the tongue with layers of spice, smooth, silky tannins. This wine really showing a little bit of evolution here, but still nice freshness and a hint of that eucalyptus and dark cocoa on the finish. Slight briny note on the second day, something you get from McLaren Vale wines, right on the coast sometimes. Most excellent juice, though. And then the Domaine Serene Rock Block. I was just in this part of Oregon, in Walla Walla, which Walla Walla is an appellation in the south of Washington that stretches into Oregon. About a third of it is into Oregon. And they have these stones on the ground, really round stones like you find in Shetland-up-to-Pop, at the bottom of a riverbed. And this wine, you really notice that minerality on the nose. 1999 vintage. And this wine just drinking brilliantly. Still had a lot of dark berry fruit, fresh rock and gravelly minerality, kind of iron, and then had this kind of Slim Jim kind of beef dried meat note to it, but violet floral notes, really complex bouquet of aromas, big and chewy on the tongue with lots of fruit still left, silky smooth tannins, and really holding together nicely here. A firm hand of acidity, dark spices, fresh earth, most excellent juice. That wine took the first flight for me. The second flight, we had a 2002 Aussies, which, you know, I wanted to showcase the difference in terroir here. You have Coonawarra, which is a cooler area. You have McLaren Vale and Barossa, and to me, the Barosas are the richest and the biggest, so we showed that last. The Coonawarra wine from Bowen, 2002, an outstanding vintage, really classic year, a cooler year, and you noticed it in this wine. It had this green, herbal, kind of minty note to the bouquet, some dried tobacco spice, black raspberry fruit, and almost a wintergreen note to the finish here with this wine, with like a gardenia floral character to it, and some really zesty, spicy notes. Excellent juice, and this was the cheapest wine on the table. It was a couple people's favorite wine. Well, the Clarendon Hills wine The Leandra Shiraz, also a very well-endowed wine here. McLaren Vale wines really stand out because of their size. Dark bittersweet chocolate, layers of mint, dark spices, soy, violet, jammy blackberry fruit, black licorice, espresso notes, lovely complexity here on the nose. Very rich and layered on the palate. This wine's still giving out a lot of fruit on the second day. Dark cherry liqueur, dark chocolate chip mint notes through the finish. Really smooth tannins here. Bright acidity still through the finish. Lovely freshness, most excellent juice. And then the wine of the night, the Hobbs Shiraz. Wow, what an amazing bouquet in this wine. I was actually in this vineyard. It's right next to Chris Ringland's Three Rivers Vineyard, and Chris Ringland makes the wine. It's a fraction of the cost. That wine's $800, $1,000 a bottle. This wine's under $100. Unfortunately, we don't have any left. I bought 6 bottles after that visit, and the last one is going into my stash for further scientific evaluation at a later date. Anyways, this wine, just an amazing array of dark chocolate, dark spice, pretty violet notes, dark cherry liqueur-like fruit, really fresh and bright, layers of everything, opening up really nicely. And on the second day, still quite large, thick and chewy on the tongue, big berry fruit, wonderful freshness, and a host of that dark spice, the chocolate chip notes through the finish, and a firm hand of acidity. This wine is still a youngster. It is going to be around for another decade or more. And like I said, if you come to our vintage Shiraz tasting 5 years from now, we'll pop it back up just to see how it's doing. And then the August Clap from Cornas, the appellation in the Northern Rhone. So we started and ended with Northern Rhone wines, and this 2003, a very exotic vintage, very hot, very atypical. And you had a lovely exotic floral bouquet here, a strong kind of flinty, gravelly, minerally note, blackberry, blueberry fruit, really rich and jammy, almost jelly-like, the concentration of the fruit here. And wow, really nice fruit on the palate, showing that lavender and floral nuance, juicy Concord grape jam, so wonderful freshness and zesty finish. Well, really nice balance in this wine. Seems like it would go another decade. Most excellent juice. A great tasting. Like I said, the Aussies took it for me, but very close. A lot of great wines on the table. That's what I had to drink at our Super Syrah tasting. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.